What is up? My name is Toby, aka Cushing from the T&D channel. Make sure you check out everything we do. And in today's video, I wanted to look at some hypnotic music and some trance aspects to music. I wanted to look into some binaural beats, some delta waves, time dilation to music, how it's done, if it works, that kind of stuff. And so we're going to dive in. We're going to do some research together. We're going to look at what we think is real. Does it do anything? I don't know. And then we're going to find out how. And in the next video, actually make a song using everything we've learned. So let's go ahead and hop in and just do some basic research. And first off, we're kind of looking for things that put you into a trance-like state. So let's just start with learning what that is, Okay, so just on Google here, we have a trance is a half-conscious state characterized by the absence of response to external stimuli, typically introduced by hypnosis or entered by a medium to put into a trance. Okay. That's the basic idea of like being half awake. It's kind of, to me, it feels like lucid dreaming is a trance when you're on the like sleep side of the spectrum, and then a trance is more, feels like a more on the waking side of the spectrum. Same kind of feeling though. It's like half asleep, half awake, suggestible, things like that. And so let's look into some ideas of hypnotic music. I already have a few notes on this, but I just want to kind of dive in and see what we find, So let's see. Looking for songs that give a hypnotic-like feeling. We should look into that. What are some examples and explanations of hypnotic music? Okay. Let's go to a Quora first, it looks like. Hypnotic music is music that is captivating, can make you feel like you're in a trance. Okay. Often has repetitive rhythms, soothing melodies, and atmospheric sounds. There are different types of hypnotic music, including ambient, trance, minimalism, binaural beats, and shamanic drumming. Okay. Let's see. It's different for everyone. It can be influenced by culture, personal taste. Okay, see, now we're starting to get into a few of the ways that maybe it could be affecting you. And so I have a little short list here. I also have repetition on there. So repetition something. I also have repetition on there. So repetition something that like the Beatles were crazy for using. That was like a different kind of hypnotic music to me, even though it was poppy and kind of innocent. It still had the idea of like getting this suggestive idea in your brain. It just keeps putting it in there. And that can kind of make you feel loopy or, lose track of time. If you keep hearing like the same chorus over and over again, you're like you might lose which verse you're in and which part of the song you're in. So that's kind of cool. Let's see. Another reference here is chord progressions. So one thing, I forget which Beatles song it was. I might have to look that up too, but there's a Beatles song where they do this, where they are in an 8-bar structure, but they write the chord progression in 7 chords. So basically, every time you loop, you're starting on a different chord, So like there's not enough chords to fill it up. You can go the other way too, but basically it starts on the 1, and the second time it starts on the 2, third time it starts on the 3, just to make up for you not having that last chord. And so that's another interesting thing I want to look into and try to apply, which leads on to like a time dilation thing for me. So that's what I've been calling it. Basically, there's 2 types to me. There is time dilation that is used that it like slows down the actual tempo, and you feel like, ooh, you just feel like your time moving slower. It's like imitating that feeling. And then there's another type that's about like offsetting beats. So like a kick or your hi-hat or a bass line, there's a push and pull that you can do with when you hit the notes, right? You can they'll say you push or pull a beat is basically like whether you're a little ahead of the one or you're a little behind, it can make it feel a little slower and like the tempo's going in different directions than it is when it's not moving. It just the instruments are playing around it. So I experimented a little bit with this in a song, and I'll put up a little clip of a couple times that I've used it. One thing that I found was odd. Like I put one, all the drum beats were just a millisecond before the one, and then all the bass hits were a millisecond after. And then I tried it both ways, and I think the bass before was kind of cooler because you hear the bass before you hear the actual hit, the one, and you hear it before you hear the actual hit of the drum, which is just a second late. So it's like it kind of leads into this woozy feeling, like you're not sure where the tempo is because like the instruments aren't exactly lined up. It's not like robotic, you know. And so, you know, I've been looking into stuff like that. We've got a couple other notes here. Polyrhythms. That's one thing I wanna look up because like the way polyrhythms can work, you know, you can be playing two at the same time and then they overlap. And so for a moment, you know, like when you're in the car and you put on your blinker and then the person in front of front of you blinkers on and then they sync up for a second and it's like, oh shit, it feels so good. That's that moment. And then they start getting offset and it's like uncomfortable. And then eventually they'll like sync back up again. That's like polyrhythms for sound, you know? And so I kind of want to apply a little bit of that too, which I haven't really used before. That'll be a new thing to dive into for me. Kind of just make it feel off, but in a good way, right? See, that's the thing. It's easy to tell when something's just weird and off, but then there's some like odd time signatures and things like that. And I know a lot of like Paul Simon shit. He does a lot of polyrhythm stuff and a lot of like odd time signatures. The Grateful Dead, of course, fucking would blow your mind with some crazy time signature changes that like doesn't make sense. There's always like a missing note. I think the 11 is a fucking weird one. There's a bunch that just don't quite feel right. A lot of terrapin. There's just some times to where it's just you feel like a note should be there. It's kind of implying a note, which is another thing that I was writing down was about note implication.
The implication.
So like suggesting a note by playing two harmonic notes. You know, that's another thing that you can do to implant something, a sound in someone's mind that's not there, you know, by using notes that it's in harmony with. And when they, you know, it's like colors when you mix them kind of, you know, and they make a new color. The same kind of thing with sound. And so I wanna practice this. I wanna get into this. These are all kind of just some weird shit I've been looking at, and I wanna figure out if it's real or how it works, you know. So that's why I wanted to start making this, or you know, make a video or two. I don't know what this is gonna turn into. So next is delta waves, and see that's another weird one that you have a moral quandary with because basically you're putting in a frequency that you think affects someone in a certain way without fully disclosing it. And so it feels kind of sneaky. But if you're using a frequency that you think is healing to someone, then, you know, does it matter? Are you just doing good? Do we really know what that shit is doing? Do we know how those frequencies are affecting the body and mind? We know a little bit. You know, there's a lot of tests. I'll try to find a couple to put up here, but there's a couple tests, you know, of like running frequencies through water and the different designs it makes. And like There's clearly designs that are more soothing or more smooth, and then there's ones that are harsh and have lots of edges and seem to be affecting it. It's hard to say negatively, but it's more aggressive and not as smooth, right? And so you think about that on the level of like the water in your body. We're 70% water. So when a frequency hits us, our entire body is going to be affected by it, right, in some way. And the patterns, the geometry that's created in the water inside of us, when it's uneasy, I could see how that could directly affect your mood, right, and how you feel. So there's some science to it there, but that I believe, and that makes a little sense to me. It's not as crazy. It's on this in the same vein as the crystal healing, that being vibrations, but the only difference is like we have a little more scientific proof about using sound vibrations for things like this. So uh, there's also like music therapy that people do, right? And they will look up, or they'll just have certain delta waves, certain frequencies that are supposed to be healing to the body. And so that's another part of this to me, is what the Nazis did, right? Oh no. So like I remember they changed the frequency from, I think it was 432. Let's look this up just to be exact. 432 versus 440. Sorry, this is looks like an article about what it does to your blood pressure and how it affects the body and the health effects. Okay, that's kind of interesting. So they do have a study that's looks pretty legit. So yeah, they were trying to figure out the differences. What I do remember about it was that so man created noise on I would assume banging on the drum had to be first. It had to be on an empty log or something. That's how I would imagine it. And then eventually getting skin and putting it over wood. But a hollow log had to be the first instrument. I guess that's what I would guess. And eventually, as we started to find different pitches, tune things, even with the drum, tuning on the drum, we found A to be, I'm pretty sure it's A, to be 432. And that was the resonance in which, we chose to use for A because it affected us in a good way. Does that make sense? We didn't have any scientific proof of it, but we tuned it, and that's what felt right. The frequency felt right to our bodies and our minds. It felt good. And that's because, to me, the frequency is a much more smooth flowing frequency, and it's not as harsh on the body. And then, to my knowledge, to my memory, the Nazis found out that 440 was activated a different part of the brain, a more aggressive part of the brain, and so they started to do more studies on it, found out that they can basically make the public more aggressive, and that makes people more primal, that your lizard brain starts coming out, you start being more violent, and then it just kind of spiral effects into chaos. That's kind of the theory there. And then I do also remember looking up about when they changed this. So there's a classical music forum. There's a international music society. I don't want it's not a conspiracy. There's an actual society that decides a lot of these things. And just like in art, there's a society who decides and names colors, right? They assign a official accepted name and number to a color. And so very similar to frequencies and hertz and shit like that, there is a music one. And again, I may have to find that after, do a little more research and then put it up here. But they basically decided to change all music to this. They changed what is accepted as A, because we all had to say when you tune a guitar, To make it make sense, to have something across the board, we all had to say this is where A is, and it was changed to my knowledge, in during the Holocaust, during World War II, and I think that I just don't know if it's real beyond like feeling a little uneasy. That's where I'm going to say where I draw the line at is like, I'm not sure if it actually is going to affect you. Like, will it affect your DNA, the way that you grow and evolve? Like, so if you play, so classical music that they tell you to play for kids, a lot of that was originally made way before the hertz change, right? So I don't know. I'm trying to connect something here. Maybe like older recordings, before the official change. If I don't know, I may be way out of line. I don't even know when the timelines of these things are. I'm just kind of spitballing. That might be why they tell you to play classical music to children, because it doesn't affect their growth as negatively. I don't know. And see, those are some questions I'd like to look into and find out what it does over a long period of time. So another aspect here is suggestive words. So that's another part of like hypnotic, being put into a trance. In hypnotism, they basically put you in a kind of a sleep-like state that you can accept things, right? You're easily suggestive. And they'll use that in music to make you feel good or make you feel aggressive, or it's all over the place. Like you'll be listening to something in a club, something, and then the build up and the drops, like, I fucking feel great right now.
So this record is in honor of George Floyd, and I really hope we can see more unity and more peace when already things are so difficult. So, shout out to his family.
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream.
It's like, that's a suggestive term to make you feel like hype and party and feel good, right? And then there's ones where it'll be very violent or be very sexual. All those things are like manipulating you. You're letting it manipulate you, hopefully. But it's on the whole culmination of things, like them setting up these hertz that are supposed to activate a part of your brain, and then suggesting that part of a brain with like clear, basically feels like sleeper cell shit, doesn't it? It feels like they're waking you up, they're making you suggestive with this frequency, and then they're throwing phrases at you. What are they called? Trigger phrases, basically, for a sleeper cell in your brain to wake up your lizard and make you more aggressive. And I would say that could be for a couple of reasons. I could say one, it could be for chaos, like we assume that's what the Nazis were doing, right? It's like they wanted to bring more chaos and violence, and they wanted to damage your brain. I also think it affects you over time, to maybe you don't live as long, maybe you're more unhappy. It could all trickle down, and it could be that, or it could be to get you working. I don't fucking know, and spending money. It could be an economical thing, because I've also like kind of thought about in the 90s, there was times in the 90s where the economy was doing really well, and the music, maybe the fact that the economy was doing well gave people the time to be sad, and gave you privilege to be sad because things were okay. And you weren't in wartime, there wasn't anything like that. So maybe that's why grunge and a lot of sad music came out around that time, because we had the capacity for it. It could be a conspiracy. It could be all planned. Because then when wartime hits, you notice a lot of party music is what I see from, over the years. I see them now. It's all about like going to the club, spending money. They want your money cycling. They need the economy boosted. And so maybe there's someone who kind of makes the decision of like, all right, the economy's down, so we have to tell these artists to make music that suggests aggression and get people out, get their brains awake and hungry, and like get things moving, get them spending. You want to show them flashy things so they desire more money and get the economy better by working to get those things. So it could be some layers to it, and it could be all thought out, or it could be incidental. It could be the other way, to where it's like it's the chicken and the egg thing. Maybe when the economy got bad, people got aggressive, and then it just naturally happens. Maybe it's a plan, maybe it's just natural. So there's some different ways to look at that too. These are all just random thoughts that I've been having about this stuff. That's the idea of what I want to look into, and that's basically what I want to do with the song. I want to test it. I'd like to use all these things that we found, so that there is a little, just to scratch on like a darker side of it. For instance, 3-6 Mafia was a group that was notorious for, being a little satanic, doing some like ritualistic things. They're pretty open about it.
The devil, when I met him, and I hate to say it, I met him.
And one theory, so they call this the rap.mp3 is what they call it. You can look up this Reddit shit. It's like, you're going to find some deep lore on it. But rap.mp3 basically was this track that some people would say it was haunted, or that it was like, somebody summoned a spirit into this track, into this sound recording. And others said that it was a track that was basically recording a murder. That was also a theory, that like someone was murdered in a room with a studio with a mic recording, and they like captured the essence of their death, their sacrifice that they made, and put it into this. See, this is where we get off track. This is not scientific. This is not what I fully want to dive into, but I do want to talk about the darker sides of it. And because if it's real, it's real, and then it can go to the nth degree in every direction. And so that's where your mind starts going. So anyway, the rap.mp3, the conspiracy there is that there was a sacrificial song, and then they put this song, the sound, behind like all these major hits. And there's like this long list of songs that they say that this rap.mp3 sound was put like under, where you can't hear it. And it's probably just room noise, right? If it's just a murder happening, it may be screaming. I don't think so. I think it's more about they captured the essence somehow, was the theory or whatever. But so basically, from there, it just kind of spiraled out, and then people started wondering about this like sacrificial music, which they would do like a sacrifice in the studio. There's a lot of theories of that and some weird things. Now, see, that again, that gets outside of the realm of science, unless you want to apply it in like a quantum physics way of like maybe by affecting a life, taking a life. There's so much extra energy, whether it's dark or not. There's so much energy in a life leaving a body that if somehow you can capture that on tape, that it would be hard not to listen to, because like maybe you would listen to the song and be like, there's just something weird about it. Like, I just like feel something, like whether it's good or bad wouldn't matter. It'd be about how it affected you. So the idea of there being some leftover energy from a murder put on tape, and then put behind something, and then it being almost irresistible because you've never heard the sound of power like that. It's crazy. I know I sound insane right now, but that's just another aspect of this, of like hypnotic music, and it's some of it's lighthearted and nice. Again, some of it's the poppy Beatles. They're just trying to make money. Some of it's a little darker, and they have darker intent, and they're trying to manipulate you. So like I studied hypnotism a little bit just by myself, not in school. Just read a few books when I was younger, and I tested a couple programs out. I had some programs that would flash things on the screen, some subliminal messaging type of things, and I would test it out. I would tell people. I wouldn't tell people right before, but I would let them know. And it would seem to implant thoughts in people's heads, the subliminal messaging. And so taking that to a degree of giving that power to someone who just wants money, are they going to harm you? Or are they just going to trick you into giving the money? Is that really a bad thing if they're not harming you? Because you were entertained, they were paid, and you weren't hurt? Is it evil to manipulate you? Like, every company does it. I was talking earlier today that some days I feel like I'm in fucking They Live, because I walk around and I see every advertisement is just trying to manipulate me and just trying to get my time, my money, my life force, whatever it is, they're trying to take it from me. And I can see through that. And some days it's just hard to fucking walk around because I just notice that everything is trying to be manipulative. And that doesn't feel good to me because I don't like feeling manipulative. I don't want to be manipulative, and I don't like to be around it. And yet it's in fucking everything. Like, if you really start thinking about it, you're going to hate the world around you because it is in everything. Like, I don't know how far you want to go, but love, hate, all the products all the food you eat, all the products you buy, everything about you was taught to you by someone, and there was something they wanted out of you when they taught you to think like that. Religion, it goes on and on. And so I don't want to be a part of manipulation. And so I'd like to use these hypnotic tricks above board. That's one cool thing about when you look up some chill beats to study to binaural beats, and it'll tell you delta waves. It'll tell you clearly, hey, these are some, we put some hertz under here that you can't hear, but they're supposedly healing for your body. So here you go. You can enjoy it if you want. I'd like to be above board and say, hey, I want to make some of my music in 432. I'd like to have some delta waves under there. I'd like some offset things to make you feel trancy, but I want to be completely above board about it, not to take anything from you, more to make you feel something and make you feel good. So that would be my intent with all this. Anyway, this has been a crazy, weird, random video of me ranting about some shit I love. And so I might make another one of these. I'll definitely make the song. We're going to use all this and make a song together using what we know about hypnotic music and see if it works, see how we feel. Maybe we'll get a little blood pressure thing and see if it affects us in different ways and test some stuff out. That would be really cool to actually get into the science of this shit and study it a little bit together. We're looking it up just fresh. So anyway, love y'all. Fucking do all the shit. You know how it is. Support us if you can. We love you for being here. Come back, bro. It's all good.